Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, escalators, peasants, vassals, Syrians, Syrian opposition, people who oppose Syria, people who oppose the opposition, people who oppose terrorists, terrorists who are opposing the Syrians, Syrians who are fighting Hezbollah, Kurds who are fighting the Syrians, Free Syrian Army is fighting Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda is fighting everyone. I'm a useful idiot. Today I want to talk about Syria again. A lot of interesting stories coming out of Syria. This one about what probably is an inevitable development, and that is the breakdown and conflict between members of the opposition. And we shouldn't be surprised by this, considering that the opposition is two main groups. One, theoretically, the Free Syrian Army, a secular group trained by the United States inside Turkey. And this group is ostensibly army deserters and the like. And there's a lot of rumors that there barely is even a Free Syrian Army to speak of. There hasn't been really too many confirmations in the field. And then we have Al-Qaeda and all the foreign terrorists, foreign jihadis, foreign Islamists that are coming in from all over the region and all over the globe, supposedly 29 different nations represented. And they are a religious group, and they have their own intentions for a post-Assad Syria. So, as I say, the fact that there is a conflict developing between these different distinct and very different parts of the so-called opposition was asking for trouble. And of course, like I brought up in so many videos before, the Syrian clusterfuck has just got layers and layers of conflict on top of conflict, because you have clashes between all these different elements there. Like I say, there's foreign fighters representing 29 different nations, and then you have the Kurdish struggle in itself, and the Kurds have found themselves fighting against Syrians and Free Syrian Army and Al-Qaeda. You also have Hezbollah in there and everybody else. So it's just been layers of conflicts, and then all the border clashes on top of that. But let's get to some of these details about this recent story, because this could end up turning into more of a fissure between these groups, since the Islamist elements seem to have the upper hand in the field, certainly over the so-called Free Syrian Army. So within the last week, we've had Al-Qaeda storm a Free Syrian Army weapons depot on the border with Turkey. So there's a very definite direct clash. And then a most recent incident, one of the more dramatic ones, is that a commander from the Supreme Military Council from the Free Syrian Army was assassinated at a border checkpoint. I guess there were some heated words, and he was shot dead. And now Al-Qaeda is saying that they are against the Free Syrian Army because they collaborate with the West, which is rather interesting, because, of course, Al-Qaeda is getting plenty of arms filtered to them from the West as well. So seemingly a moot point. But there's been 5 incidents this last week where Free Syrian Army has had losses of both men and territory to Al-Qaeda. And in the short run, it's not really clear whether this is going to be an issue or not, because the fact is that the Syrian regime, the Assad government, are having a lot of victories in the field, and this is perhaps putting the stress on the relationship between Islamist elements and the so-called Free Syrian Army. If they continue to have these kind of losses in the field, there's going to be a lot of infighting generated by those pressures, would be my guess. And now we even have death threats from Al-Qaeda against Free Syrian Army members and members of the Supreme Military Council. And there's also discussions about who are these so-called Al-Qaeda groups. Most of the discussion seems to center around what's called Al-Qaeda from Iraq, and then there's Al-Qaeda in Syria. So once again, we have a little bit of irony, the fact that Al-Qaeda members from Iraq, an American vassal state of some sort, that is having jihadis go in from Iraq into Syria. And so just another level of irony, like I say. So here we have more conflicts and layers of conflicts in Syria. And like I say, since there's continued losses on the field, we could see a lot more infighting. And then it will be interesting to see if more guns are filtered into Syria, where they end up. And if, in fact, that one story gives us a clue that somehow Western powers are trying to get weapons to the Free Syrian Army, whoever they are and whatever they are. And Al-Qaeda is feeling a little shut out and actually stormed the Free Syrian Army weapons depot on the border with Turkey. So that's a little clue as to what kind of dynamics are going on there. But there are rumors of a Syrian opposition offensive coming in the fall. And not really sure if that's true or not, but we'll keep our eye out for signs of that. And if that's true, we'll have to see if the opposition can maintain some kind of relationship and continue their pressure on the Assad government as a unified effort. But there seems to be a lot of infighting and just the theological differences between these groups and their ultimate goals of what should happen in the post-Assad Syria will probably keep them at odds. So, and then to take it a step further and extrapolate the possibilities, of course, if the Assad regime did start toppling and there was pressure and possible intervention in the months to come, which seems like a likely scenario, that this fissure between Al-Qaeda elements and Islamist elements and the so-called secular Free Syrian Army, those tensions will undoubtedly increase as the prize will be in their eye, and they will both be looking for different outcomes for a post-Assad Syria. The Free Syrian Army theoretically pushing for some sort of democratic state, a secular model, and the Islamists perhaps trying to set up yet another theological-based Sharia law Islamist country and possible Al-Qaeda haven. So how is that? How is that? And in fact, let's talk about that for just a second. The fact that most of these places that the U.S. has gone into and wanted to make sure there was no Al-Qaeda haven all seem to be eventually turning into some kind of Al-Qaeda havens. But anyway, that'll be a topic for another video. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too. And remember, if I agreed with you, then we'd both be wrong.